you're going to find yourself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So New York in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. Doesn't qualify as well as he races. Only up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I'm just going to see how Alistair Haight deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin. And I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped you all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Oh, Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well. Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third. Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed more and forward up ahead. He's got out of line. It's now Pike. Good have a go. Werrell, don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Bill Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious race of the league. Everybody's a lot of fun. Yeah. It's all about the entertainment, so I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there. Is it really bunching up now?
Hello everybody and welcome to the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Championship here for its opening round. We've come to the Circuit de Navarra, one of anyway, the newest circuits added to iRacing, and we're ready to go racing for a couple of races tonight, opening out another season of GR86 action. It's myself, Ian Leary, and James Parfitt alongside me on the JPB YouTube channel here today, and obviously I recorded after the fact broadcast, but nevertheless, we'll be basically going through this as if it's happening right now. Welcome along, James. Good to have you alongside me for this one. Hoping for good GR86 racing, because this car does often produce that, even if I don't particularly like driving it. I don't think it's very nice to drive, but I think plenty of these drivers do, and hopefully they will provide some good racing with it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. It's a tricky car, as we all know. It does love its back end coming round and going joining the front when it really wants to if you start slamming on the throttle too hard. But I think overall it should be a good one. You know, it's one of them, isn't it? It's the opening round of the season. It's your first race if you've not done a league race before. You know, we're just coming to the end of qualifying. We're literally 1 minute 20 away. There's a lot involved. You got your first 20-minute race, then you got your 25-minute race, you got your top 6 reverse, the nerves are going, your pedals are shaking, your knees are going. It's all going to be very, very interesting indeed. So let's see how these guys can handle it as we have just come to the end of qualifying. We'll bring you up the grid for the first race very, very shortly.
Yeah, it's a 3-lap lone qualifying session, so they don't have to worry about traffic, but they only get 3 laps, and that will have taken a little bit of time round here. So now that's complete. Indeed, a minute early, by the looks of things. I think nobody's moved for a while, which is what normally happens. Then we go into a 20-minute race, followed by the reverse grid race. Just the top 6 overall get reversed, though. And so it's going to be pretty difficult and pretty important to fight your way through into that top 6. Although I would say and argue pretty difficult for anyone outside of the pro classification to actually manage that, because there are 6 pros in the field. So that's going to be quite tricky for the rest, I would imagine. But if you're a pro-am or even an am and you can make your way into the top 6 overall, then you're in a pretty good place, I would say, for the second race. So with the end of qualifying, it's time to go racing for the first time this season. The 10 minutes does now tick by in the qualifying session, and hopefully we'll be able to show you the grid in a few moments' time to really give you an idea of where everybody is after that qualifying session. And indeed, there they are. Scott McFall has taken the fastest time ahead of Mark Brown. 7/10 between those two. Another 7/10 back to Peter Duke in that row there. He was the AM champion in last season. He's now moved to Pro-Am. He's alongside Rumine in 4th. Then it's Scott Brown and Daniel Wareham. The pro champion from last season is in 6th place ahead of Brian Dudley and Lee Rylands. It's Dan Forster and Craig Corish who is rounding out the top 10. Stephen Parker is 11th alongside Michael Walters. They're 2nd and 3rd in AM. Alan McCain is 13th ahead of Neil Kennedy, with Adrian Hatfield, John Johnson on row 8. Tim Walters and Kieran Fletcher are on row 9, ahead of Terry Atkinson and Michael Elms. Just outside the top 20, it's Scott Bell and Stuart Brearley. Shane Bellinger is 23rd ahead of Sean Clark, and then it's Anthony Jones and John Kenny, who didn't set times in that session, bringing up the rear. Well, they've got on with gridding up quite quickly, and it's almost ready to go racing for 20 minutes around here. What's very notable, I've got to say, is the split in the field in terms of who is where there. It's not just all the pros followed by all the pro-ams followed by all the ams. It is a mixed up field for sure, with the likes of Pete Duke in 3rd place, for example, followed by 2 pro-am fellow competitors. So it's a very mixed up field and a very interesting race ahead of us. I think that's pretty much it, everyone. Lined up on the grid now. And as you can see, the lights will come on very shortly. Ready for our first race at Navarra. It'll be Scott McFall on the first position, having come 3rd in the championship standings last season, finishing a fairly sizable 90 points off Daniel Wareham by the end. Wareham has only qualified 6th overall here and 3rd in the pro class. So not a disaster, but
Maybe not the way he would have wanted to start his season. Speaking of which, we're underway, and there's one driver on the left-hand side there who's not actually got away there, and is going to be getting off to a very slow start indeed. That looks like it is Daniel Wareham, in fact, the champion from the previous season in the Pro class, getting off to an absolute disaster. Look at him there, just gliding straight through the field. I've no idea how he's managed that, to be honest with you, but he's dropped right from 3rd to 6th. There in the Pro class. He's dropped outside the top 20 overall in a chaotic start. Look at the first type end of the season, down in towards turn 3. A couple of cars already spun around.
Yeah, you can see some of the people in the back there. John Kenny had a little bit of a moment. Michael Elms has also got caught up in it as well. More there going on as well at the back there. So, unfortunately, that was Tim Walters, I believe, and Michael Elms again getting caught up in more action. Looks like Rumiej has had a little bit of an issue. He's dropping down the order as well. He's off the side of the circuit, coming round turn 6 through to turn 7. So, a lot of people, as I said, getting nervous at the beginning. I'm not too sure what happened to Daniel Wareham. He literally just went straight down the order at the start. He's recovering positions now, but yeah, looks like a few of them have got that little bit of edginess about them and struggling right at the beginning.
It was almost like a classic Formula 1 style stall on the grid, wasn't it? But I didn't even know that's possible in these cars. But anyway, Wareham has got a lot of work to do now. He's just got past McCain there, Alan McCain, in 17th now is McCain. Not sure why he's falling through the field quite so rapidly, but he was there for a moment or so. So Scott McFall is in the lead. He did lose it briefly, actually, in that opening section of corners, but now he's got to the lead again, and he's going into the pit lane. Is it a jump start for Scott McFall, the pole sitter, that he's having to take a drive-through for? Or is he, well, he's not found a quicker strategy, I'm sure, even though it's a shorter distance, and you miss out the final corner here. He's not improved his speed. He's going into the box as well. I mean, the only thing I can think of really is a penalty.
Yeah, stop and hold, I think, for 40 seconds there, probably for Scott McFall, as that's generally the penalty if he has jumped the start, depending on what else he's got, unless he's dropped it all the way down. There is a little trick you can do with certain things. If you turn them all off, your stop and hold does get decreased down to a few seconds. So maybe he has managed to get that done. He is coming out, mind you, in about 21st place at this moment in time. Shane Bellinger and Stuart Brearley having a nice little battle further down as well. You can see almost in the groups, the Pro-Ams at the moment are Scott Brown is at the front there with Peter Duke, and they're currently leading the field. Mark Brown just in front of him in the Pros. So yeah, a lot going on at the moment. Kieran Fletcher, Scott Bell, Sean Clark also look like they've just had a bit of a moment towards the back end of this one, Mr. O'Leary. So a lot going on, a lot of nerves and a lot of people making mistakes.
Would you believe it, Daniel Wareham's back to 3rd where he qualified in Pro anyway, but he's not anywhere near his overall position where he found himself at the start of this race. It's very difficult to work out who's battling for an actual position and who's just battling with someone overall at the moment, and there's the full picture of it. You can see the multicoloured nature of the left-hand side of the tower there. It is all over the place. It's not regimented into sort of one after the other. Crash, I'm afraid, for Lee Ryland. Well, not a crash, but certainly a spin, an off-track moment for Lee Rylands, who dropped to 10th place, I'm afraid, on that lap there. Not sure at all what happened to him. However, he was running in that leading battle for the AM lead along with Stephen Parker. So that wasn't particularly ideal, but he's only dropped to 3rd place in class, so he won't be losing too much sleep about that, but he'll try and recover from it. The real danger in AM, of course, is that one of them at the moment is going to get that top 6 reverse, which puts the leader of the second race, the leader on the start of the second race anyway, a good 5 positions ahead of at least 5 positions ahead of their nearest rival because of the way that this reverse grid works.
Yeah, exactly. And you got Stephen Parker Hamilton currently sitting on that pole position in the first reverse grid. Of course, Scott McFall's back into the pit lanes. So not entirely sure if he's had a issue or if he's got some technical issues, but this is the front 4 with Mark Brown, Scott Brown, Peter Duke and Ryan Dudley all having a nice little battle. We've got Simtech Pro, Simtech, and Scott Brown being the only privateer in this front group. So he's a bit surrounded at the moment. Not entirely sure what he's going to be able to do. John Johnston has just lost a place over Dan Forster. So John, unfortunately, dropping down the order. 5th in class at the moment in the AMs, but doing a great job in general. But this front battle is getting heated.
Certainly is. Battle for third, side by side for third, in fact, as Dudley gets down the inside here. Ryan Dudley down the inside of Peter Duke, who's moved up to the Pro-Am class this season and is already hitting the ground running after winning AM 1 season ago. And it wasn't particularly close either. 58 points between he and Scott Brown, who has also moved up. The two of them, the two previous AM battlers, now Pro-Am battlers. And it's quite bizarre that they've gone from the front of AM straight to the front of Pro-Am just in the space of one season.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though, isn't it? When people are quick like that, you can see there's another pit lane entrance. Mark Brown going into the pit lane as well. That's the first, at the end of the first 3 laps. I wouldn't be surprised if that is also a penalty off the jump start, because he did go very, very quickly. So I'll be interested to see why that is all of a sudden materialising here. But that does release Scott Brown, Ryan Dudley and Peter Duke. I think when you move up together and you're on the same pace and you put the practice in, you're going to get quicker and quicker and quicker. Right, that's the way generally when you practice works. As you see here, Ryan Dudley having a right old go at Scott Brown. He gets the job done going into turn 3, round the right hander he goes, and Ryan Dudley of Simtech absolutely flying.
It's a good job. This track is made to look very wide by these slightly small machines, because they really needed the space on the way towards turn 2 there. When you're hooked up on the inside curve at turn 2, you can very easily crash into one another, but thankfully the two of them refrained from doing that. And we've got a new leader, Ryan Dudley, at the front of the field. Despite qualifying down in 7th, he's moved right through the field in a quite topsy-turvy opening race of the season. It's the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Championship on the JPB network. Meanwhile, side by side in the mid-pack, 11th place this one is for, a battle being headed by Dan Forster. We've got Rumine, McCain and Hadfield just in behind, and we've got 2 of the 3 classes represented as well. So there's a look at the class picture in itself. We do indeed have class battles in this group here, as Rumine tries to get through on Forster, the front 2 of this 4. Oh, not anymore. Oh no.
He did what exactly we said would happen with the back end of that GR86. He got on the curb, still on the power, and unfortunately for Rummenigge, he's gone around now as well. So he's dropped all the way down the order. He's now 18th, 7th in class, and it just goes to show how quick he can fall apart for somebody in one foul swoop.
That is a real shame for him, as out over the line goes Ryan Dudley. Still leading comfortably in the pro standings, and the real advantage he's got is that gap back to the likes of Wareham, who's still making good progress, mind you. I think he's just going over the line now, and he's trying to make his way back into the top 6 as well. But is there enough time remaining? He does still have just over half of the race remaining. However, it's a difficult ask for him to do that. He's back through again there. What's his overall position? It is now 6th, so he has now got there. Daniel Wareham has now got there. That's so important for him now. So effectively, he's losing just 1 position to his best rival, if you like, early on in this first race. But also, he is getting the best possible starting position for the second race as well. It's almost the perfect scenario.
Yeah, it's so important for these guys that when you utilise a reverse grid, right? We know if you finish something in some leagues that have got top 10, you know, if you finish in 11th, you're going to start in 11th, and the guy in 10th is going to start 10 places ahead of you. So for Wareham, it is vitally important that he can make amends for what happened at the beginning of race 1, which we still can't work out what went on all of a sudden at the start. He just seemed to either miss a gear, or he went from 1st to 3rd and didn't go anywhere. But either way, Dan Wareham had a bad one, but he is recovering well, sitting in 6th. He's got pole for race 2 if he stays where he is at the moment, and we'll have to just keep an eye and see if he goes any further. Lee Ryland's silent side by side with Neil Kennedy, shoots it up the inside as well. Great job from him. That's through turn 11. Job done into 12. Should get it completed. Coming around there as well. Can he get the outside line going and give him the inside for turn 13? If he's just got to be a little bit more braver on the outside, in the inside, and he was there. He got the job done. Neil Kennedy down a position, but again, not for a class battle. This is just for an overall position.
It was, and that was an AM passing or repassing a Pro-Am there, slightly surprisingly. And here goes Kennedy again, back down the inside, in towards the final corner, but he can't do it that time. Meanwhile, in 10th place, it is Mark Brown recovering from that. Was he one of those who went down for a drive-through? I think he was.
Yeah.
And he's now trying to get into the top 6 himself here, but I don't know if he's quite going to have the time to do so. Down the inside, he'll go of Kennedy. That is a pass that is not particularly surprising. These pros are very quick indeed, and they're making good progress from, in some cases, some quite lowly positions at times in this race.
Yeah, but it's all been silly little things, hasn't it? You know, if Mark Brown was a situation which we think he did jump the start, that's why he's down where he is. Dan Wareham, he didn't get off the start. That's the problem. Yeah. You've got Scott McFall, who's been in the pit lane, well, twice as far as I'm aware he's been in there. He's trying to recover back through. He's sitting in 15th at the moment. So how far he can go in the next 9 minutes, I'm not entirely sure how much further he can actually get, because he's got a 3.8 second gap to Terry Atkinson, who's sitting 5th in the AMs. So there's still things to do with some of these pros, and I think some of them might have to sort of look at it and think, right, what did I do wrong? Well, Dan Wareham, whatever you did at the start, probably don't do that again. And if Mark Brown has jumped the start, which we think he did do, he's got to wait for the lights to come on and finish going out before he can go anywhere.
Well, the problem, I think, is when you see the pole sitter go, or someone around you go, you also do so. So I wonder if those two maybe looked at each other, saw each other going just slightly before the lights went out, and it's sort of a natural reaction, because generally when you are alongside or just behind of whoever it is, generally you are going at the same time as them, because you are all going when the lights go out. But it is quite difficult to detrain your muscle memory, if you like, and think, well, it's the lights haven't got out yet, so I probably shouldn't go yet either. But I'm afraid they've both jumped the gun there, I'm afraid. As meanwhile, Daniel Wareham gets down the inside. He's now up to 5th position, and to be honest, I don't know if I'd quite advise this, but anyway, he's going for it. He's just trying to get the position that he can in the field, which is fair enough. Mark Brown trying to do the same, but he has a much more tangible reason for doing so. He's trying to get to 6th place in the next 7.5 minutes. He's up to 8th now, and here he goes for 7th. Walters is going to be shoved out the way here, I'd imagine, proverbially, Michael Walters, and he could lose a place as a result to Lee Rylands, who might well do the smart thing here and just follow through, and he does. Lee Rylands follows through and gets up into 8th place overall.
Yeah, great little move from there as well. Just took the opportunity. We've got the front three coming back together with Dudley, Brown and Duke. They're slowly closing up the gap to the guys in front of them as well. So obviously they've got 7 minutes now. Can we get an opening Pro-Am win? Well, that's going to be one that we'll keep an eye on here. But I know Ryan Dudley is quick, so it could be tough for these guys. But he's leading the pro class. He's got Dan Wareham literally down in 5th place at the moment. I am in agreement with you. I don't know how much of a smart idea it would be to get off the front row. I think for Dan Wareham, I probably wouldn't push Craig Corish anymore and try and stay where he is to make sure he gets that front row for race number 2. But they're racing drivers. They want all the points they can get. So, you know, the chances of him not going for it if the opportunity arises are probably very, very slim.
Absolutely. So, there's the look at the front of the field. Ryan Dudley hasn't been able to get rid of those, has he? Exactly. Scott Brown and Peter Duke right behind. As I said before, the two battling championship contenders last season. They are now in the Pro-Am field. It was Duke who came out on top pretty convincingly that time, but he's still in second here as we ride on board for the first time today with one of the drivers. And towards turn 3. Makes relatively late on time, down to first gear just to get that purchase and the traction out the corner, flat out through turn 4. Windscreen wipers going. You know, it's a rather nice day. In towards turn number 5 now. Long left-hander, and it's really difficult in these cars as well because they really don't enjoy braking and turning at the same time. But that's almost exactly what you have to do in time for turn 6. You just saw him straightening out the wheel there in time to get the car slowed down, and then you're going through 7, which you'd think would open you up into a long straight. It sort of surprises you with turn 8, a right-angled right-hander before you go onto the back straight, and you can see that Dudley is concerned by what he sees behind him. You saw the way he moved his car over to the right-hand side there just briefly out of turn number 8. He's certainly got his eye on the mirrors. He wants to win overall as well as in his class.
Yeah, you know, you give me a racer driver that's at the front of the field that doesn't want to win it all, will it? And that's the thing with Ryan Dudley. He knows he wants to. He's going to go out to do it. He's even got it on his bumper, in it to win it on the back end of his bumper. So we know where his head is lying at this moment in time. But he has got a tough job. These guys have not left him alone. And whether or not Scott Brown or Peter Duke are going to start making moves, well, they've got 4 minutes to go. They're doing lap times at 1:56. They're going to be coming around probably for the 2 more, maybe 3, to get this job done. So Dudley's not going to have it all of his own way over the last couple of laps, and I think he's going to have to fight because these guys are going to make sure he does.
Well, is it going to be the last couple of laps, or is it going to be 3? I think it's 3. I think they're going to squeeze another one in here. So we're going to get, what was that, 12 laps, is it? Question mark? No, 11, sorry. 11 laps we're going to get in here. So we'll squeeze another one in right at the end. And that's maybe good news for the other pros who have had issues today. Daniel Wareham being one of them. He's now getting down the inside of one of the... Is that the AM leader, Stephen Parker, I think?
Great chorus,
no,
I believe.
Yes, you're right. Yep, you're right. 3rd place in Pro
Dan.
Am.
Steady, son.
Instead. Yeah, so good pass for Wareham. Now, how far away is Mark Brown from doing the same? He's got 3.5 seconds to catch. I think it is Stephen Parker who he needs to catch. Yeah, so 3.5 seconds. Well, he can see him, and he does have another few laps. So this is going to be touch and go as to whether Mark Brown can get there or not. He did a 56.0 last time. That was a second quicker than Stephen Parker, who incidentally set his personal best on that last lap, by the way. That's not good news for Mark Brown, but he was still a second quicker. If he does that for the next 3 laps, he will be there in the final sector of the final lap. So he would either time it perfectly or just not quite time it, get there in time, but we'll wait and see. He does need to absolutely keep pushing on at the rate he is doing at the moment.
Yeah, we've got Dan Foster and Neil Kennedy scrapping it out. You see behind with Scott McFall and Alan McCain. Scott goes up the inside, gets the job done over Alan going out of turn 9 on the run round to turn 10 there. So a great job from him. There are little battles down at the back end. There's now ruminating Scott Bell and Michael Elms. They're currently going side by side as well, coming into turn 8 around the right-hander. And it is Ruminating who gets that job done and dusted. Michael Elms, Scott Bell there, unfortunately, still tucked in right behind, but you can see up front Dudley's opened up about 7/10 at the moment. He's put Brown into the clutches of Duke, and if Duke plays this right and fights with him, Dudley, yes, will take the win, but Duke might be able to get the win in class, and he's looking at trying to go up the inside. Is he going to be able to hold it? Again, turning and braking, which is what you said earlier on, the cars do not like. It's going to be tough for Duke, but he's going to have this one and one more, try and get this one done.
Yeah, it must be a horrible circuit for these cars because you're turning and braking 2, 3, 4 times. It's really horrible, and it makes it very, very tricky indeed to not spin, basically, fundamentally. Here goes Duke down the inside now. Oh, that'd be really difficult. That's one of the corners I was highlighting as turning and braking. Well, you can just about get your braking done inside, but it's not comfortable. And that was on the way towards turn 6. Not an orthodox overtaking point at all, actually, but maybe that's what it's going to take here for Peter Duke to take the class win in the opening race of the season. Is it going to take something slightly unorthodox? Because Brown is very comfortable and used to having Duke right behind him now, so it may well take a surprise. Meanwhile, these two are not going to be surprised by anything each other do, I don't think, because they've been battling for a while now, and they probably will for the final lap and a half of this race too. What they've got to worry about is Scott McFall, who's making a late charge here for the top places. He might just about squeeze into the top 10 by the end.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for Peter Duke on that overtake, and I'll explain why in a minute. I think Scott's going to go through on Neil Kennedy and Dan Foster. I think that's probably could be a given, coming at the fact that they've still got one more lap to go. So I think Scott's just got the pace on him. Last time out he did a 155.7, the guys in front 158 and 158 I believe as well. So I think Scott's definitely got the pace. He's going to get this job done and move his way forward. My fear is now, has Peter Duke just cooked the one opportunity that he's going to have to try and get past Scott Brown? As you said, not an orthodox place to take an overtake. We are on the final lap of the race. Has he just got it all wrong? Did he make it in the wrong place at the wrong time, and maybe should have been a little bit more conservative, because that gap's out to above a second now and it's not coming down at the rapid rate of knots that he needs for this final lap.
Yeah, I think that may have been a mistake, although it's all hindsight, of course. We're acting like experts after the fact, but it's a lot more difficult down there. I appreciate that, but even so, he may well look back at that attempt and say, maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's Scott Brown, though, who's looking like he'll take the win here. You see the way they're maximising the road there on the right-hand side, especially. Just a little bit of extra tarmac to use. It's one of those circuits where putting any grass and gravel and actually getting yourself into it is actually quite difficult on occasion. They've lined the straights quite nicely with greenery, but where you're likely to end up in a race car, not so much. There's the tarmac again on the bottom of your screen that you can really use around this circuit. The iRacing off-track system will be playing its part, and the slowdowns as well, although we haven't seen very many, if any, of those actually. You get 17 incidents throughout one of these races as well, by the way, so plenty to be getting on with in a 20-minute race. Final couple of corners now then in the opening race of the season. Ryan Dudley has led for most of the second half of this race, although it's been a great rise through the field from the start for him to get there in the first place. Started this race 7th in the overall standings, and it looks like he's going to finish on top of not only the pro standings but also overall. Out of the final corner, and it's Ryan Dudley who wins the opening race of the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Championship, just ahead of the Pro-Am winner Scott Brown, who beats Peter Duke by less than a second. Daniel Wareham recovered well from his sluggish start to get to 4th, and in the top 6 it's Am winner Stephen Parker, who's in a great position for race 2.
Oh, do you know what? I'm not entirely sure for Stephen Parker Hamilton if, yes, he's going to have pole for race number 2, and he's going to be, well, there, isn't he? Let's be real about it. But we've seen what happens with people jumping off the line. And Mark Brown right behind him. Mark tried to get that pole position, and I don't know if beneficial for Steve to possibly let Mark have it, because obviously you're going to be mixed up with all of these super fast pro and pro-am guys hurtling past you, and he would have been alongside Lee Ryland. So I don't know. It's great taking pole, but what you've got coming at you behind you as an am is quite a lot.
Yeah, you can look at it like that, certainly, but the counter argument I would put towards that is the fact that he will have 5 cars between himself and his nearest rival, which is what I would want to take personally, because that just gives you so much of a buffer to enjoy in the opening part of this race that, yeah, he'll be pleased to have hung on. I think he certainly did want to hang on there, because he's only just about managed it, even though he was trying. Scott McFall very nearly made it to 9th place. He was less than a 10th away from passing Dan Forster there. So he may be slightly disappointed by that, and certainly will be disappointed with the outcome of the race overall, because he started well, qualified well indeed, but didn't get the best rub of the green, I'm afraid, throughout that opening race there. So the final drivers now complete their races, and in a few minutes' time we'll get through the results. But entertaining opening race for sure. The front 3 all covered by less than a second. That's Sean Clark coming across the line, and the only driver a couple of laps down, John Kenny. Not sure why he came into the pit lane for so long, but he brings up the rear after nearly 40 seconds in the pit lane. and no doubt other problems throughout the day. So that is the opening race complete. Now, there's a bit of a session in between times, but in the meantime, we'll go through the results. Ryan Dudley is the winner ahead of Scott Brown. Peter Duke was there too, maybe a little bit disappointed that he didn't quite get into the winning position there. Daniel Wareham got to 4th place in the end, ahead of Craig Courish, and Stephen Parker just about hung on to 6th place ahead of Mark Brown. It's Lee Rylands who is in 8th place, ahead of Dan Forster and Scott McFall, who round out the top 10. Neil Kennedy and Alan McCain in 11th and 12th before a whole host of AMs. Adrian Hadfield was on the podium for the AMs, ahead of Michael Walters, Terry Atkinson and Stuart Brierley. It was Shane Bellinger in 17th, ahead of Ruminate, with Kieran Fletcher in 19th. Michael Elms, the final of the pros, down in 20th. Then it was Scott Bell and the rest of the AMs, Anthony Jones, Tim Walters, John Johnson, Sean Clark, and then the final driver and the only driver not on the lead lap was John Kenny. So that's your results from the opening race. Race 2 coming up very shortly, but yeah, good opening race, I've got to say. Close battle for the lead throughout a lot of that, especially in Pro-Am, for the overall as well, for what that matters. But it's going to be an interesting race 2 as well, and very possibly more of the same, although maybe with a few less drive-through penalties, or indeed penalties for jumping the start, which we believe befell a couple of the front runners early on there.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to have to look out for now. You take what you did in race 1, and if you did it well, you do it again. But if you didn't do it well and you did it horrendously, then you sit back and think, right, what do I need to improve? Well, I need to improve this. I need to improve that. So I think overall, there's a lot of people who will sit back and go, right, actually, do you know what? I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it that way. And as you said, for the likes of Dan Wareham, Mark Brown, Scott McFall, who all had issues at the start, they're going to sit back and think, right, I need to do this better. I need to do that better. Because they've got to. That's the thing. They've got to do it better than what they had last time. Ryan Dudley looked quick, and if people don't get hold of Dudley early and make a point of saying, no, son, you're not going to have it your own way, Dudley could run away with this. If Wareham doesn't get it right or anything like that, they could be in deep trouble. So I'm hoping that some of the guys, Scott McFall, Dan Wareham, Mark Brown and others, get it a little bit more right in race 2 than they did in race 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, as I explained before, difficult to do if there's others around you doing it. It can be very distracting indeed. I know I've been there personally. I've done it. Indeed, I've been the instigator and indeed the victim in that cycle. So there you go. A couple of minutes left until the end of warm-up, and just 5 minutes more in this second race as well. I mean, what I was expecting actually at the start of this was maybe quite blocks of different classes, if you see what I mean. So, pros at the front, Frams in the middle and AMs at the back. That very much is not the case, as we've seen from this opening race here. They're not into blocks of their classes at all, in fact. And so I get the feeling that actually, contrary to most series that have a reverse grid, it may not have actually that much of an effect, because the field was so muddled up during that first race, you could have been mistaken for thinking that was the reverse grid race. And we've got the qualifying race coming up right now, but we certainly don't have that. And I just wonder if this next 25 minutes is going to be more of the same from that first race.
I do. The thing is, though, I think the thing that we have to remember is that some of the pros did get it wrong. So would we have had the pro-am split kind of thing? Obviously with Parker Hamilton doing a great job, Ryland up there as well. I'm just wondering whether or not that because the pros got it wrong, they were out of position. And I'm just thinking, if they can get it right, will we see the split that we expected to see with Scott McFall, Dan Wareham, the likes of Mark Brown, Ryan Dudley, all up the front end of the field for race 2, if they get it right. Don't forget, Wareham had an incident and it was off the start, didn't go anywhere. Mark Brown had a problem as well, and he managed to battle his way back through. So maybe it wasn't the split, it was more of the fact that the pros just got it wrong a little bit.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, that was a move down the inside. This is only warm-up, of course, and things down the inside and all sorts. So there you go. But the session is now complete. The checker flag waves, and the second race will indeed get underway. In fact, only one driver was able to even get a time in there. Not that it really matters at all. There weren't many drivers out on the circuit anyway. Most of them using that opportunity to take a bit of a break before this feature race. Feature race as it's called. It's just slightly longer than the first one. So Scott McFall will be on the front of the field ahead of Mark. Oh no, I'm reading. I'm reading different. Sorry, I'm reading wrong times. Stephen Parker Hamilton indeed is on the front. There it is. I thought that would have been weird. Scott McFall, that'd be weird. No, it's Stephen Parker Hamilton, as you can see, on the front there. I don't know if you can see the grid more better than this, James. We just have to go through it like this. Craig Corish, is that right?
Yep.
On the second position there? Yeah. Okay. I'm getting the gist of this now. That's good. And then they'll go further back. It's pretty much everybody gridded up already. As I mentioned before, the warm-up space used by most to just have a break before this second race rather than take on any more practice, which is probably a good idea, really. If you think about it. As the green flag waves now, Stephen Parker Hamilton tries to get off to a good start, but I'm afraid hasn't really done so. And coming through on the outside, Daniel Wareham might well be cruising through to a lead at the moment. This could be huge if he takes the lead early on, and he does around the outside. Stephen Parker Hamilton's advantage over the rest of his AM rivals is going down the drain pretty quickly here. Side by side for third and fourth place. Meanwhile, as Dudley and Brown also try and get through. Ryan Dudley already having made a good start here as the winner of race one, trying to get through again here. He's been passed by Mark Brown briefly. Now he'll try and repass again on the way towards turn 5. Brown defends a little bit. Dudley hangs back a little bit as well. A little bit more caution exercise, I think, by everybody actually during the opening lap this time round. There were a number of drivers who spun during race one's opening. This time round, everybody's got off to a good start.
Yeah, everybody's got away cleanly. You see Dan Wareham did what we expected him to do, right? He got off, did an absolute barnstorming start and flew away at the beginning. Craig Corish is in there now. He's leading the Pro-Am. Steve Parker Hamilton leading the AM, sitting in third overall, but he's got Mark Brown, Ryan Dudley, Peter Duke, Scott McFall. They're all coming for him and they're all wanting to get that position. So he's going to have to try and either let him through at the most suitable place for Steve Parker Hamilton rather trying to then hold him up, or he's got to try and fight it. Me personally, I'd let him go. I've got a bit of a gap round to Lee Rylands in second in the AMs. I'm not overly rushed about it. I will try and keep up where I can. So Hamilton's in one of them situations at the moment though, Ewan. He's got to make a decision, fight or let him go, and that is what could happen.
That certainly is what could happen. So they're down the inside and through goes. Was that Ryan Dudley through? Was already through side by side in the meantime, and Parker Hamilton is indeed staying to the right hand side here. I don't know if he was intending to let everybody through or whether it's just happened. As in the background there, it's Scott Brown who's gone for a half spin. He gets back going again, but look at the time he's going to lose. He's probably going to drop to last in the field, is he? Shane Bellinger is not too far away. He's just going to slot in behind Brown. In fact, there he is in the Falcon livery, though not ideal at all, I'm afraid. Stephen Parker has indeed lost most of that ground then. Say, I don't think it was fully intentional actually, but he's just got a bad run off the final corner and he's been swamped by everybody. You'd imagine Peter Duke will be through pretty quickly because he was challenging for the Pro-Am win during that first race. Be looking to do the same again here, although that Brown, as we just saw, is now miles away. Meanwhile, the other Brown, Mark Brown, has just dropped a place there side by side, and the smoke overhead was Dan Wareham, by the way, who's still just about hanging on to the lead. This is very congested between the top 7, all fighting for the race lead.
Yeah, these guys are all battling away. The Simtech boys are not holding back on each other. Ryan Dudley, Mark Brown, Dan Wareham all at the front. They're literally going for it. Corish is in the mix now. He's left the door on the inside open, going going around here, so he's going to lose some positions on the inside. He's again got Peter Duke about 2 cars back now, so we can't afford to lose too many places here, Ewan. Otherwise he's going to be in the clutches of Duke as well, which he is at this moment in time right about now. So Corish and Duke back together once more for that Pro-Am lead, but the pros have come through. Wareham, Brown, McFall, Dudley, they've all gone through to the front, which is what we said would happen over Steve Parker Hamilton right at the beginning.
Up our side and 3 wide in the background indeed as Stephen Parker Hamilton is getting swamped again here now. He's got to be really careful that Rylands doesn't follow everybody through now, because Lee Rylands is right there trying to get the lead of Am away. Smoke just up ahead of them, but they're all okay. Still all pointing in the right direction. This is maybe even more lively than the opening race of the day. Meanwhile, side by side for the lead in Am. There's a look at Stephen Parker Hamilton, who's going backwards now. So after starting at the pole position of this race and having a 5-car buffer between himself and Lee Rylands, it's already through is the driver of the 382. That's a remarkable drive from Lee Rylands. Slide in the background meanwhile, there's Pro-Am battles for podium positions indeed between Peter Duke and Dan Forster. Into heat up just in behind the Am leading battle.
Yeah, there's a battles all as well, kicking off with Mark Brown at the front with Ryan Dudley, Scott McFall. Scott has just gone past, so it's all going to be very, very interesting now. Can Scott make his way forward over the likes of Dan Wareham? But he's got Mark Brown and Ryan Dudley closing in. Peter Duke has been separated from the lead of the Pro-Ams of Craig Corish. That's Lee Rylands has got himself in the mix there, so I think Duke may have had a little bit of a moment and gone off the side.
Oh, that was rude. Oh dear, Stephen Parker Hamilton. It's a huge crash and a roll on the back straight as well. This is unbelievable. They're powering into the accident. It's still doing gymnastics down the straight. I can't believe this. This finally lays to a rest. Stephen Parker Hamilton a bit further back also does so. Neil Kennedy too. This is quite astonishing. It's very close again. Dear, oh dear. That was a remarkable accident for Rumine, I'm afraid. And it looks like in all of the kerfuffle as well, Scott Bell has lost out on a couple of positions just as everybody's coming through. This is quite remarkable. More contact now. Stephen Parker Hamilton has gone from the very front of this field almost to the very back in a complete disaster for him, I'm afraid.
How is Rumine's car still going? Right?
No damage.
There's no damage. He's just done more flips than a gymnastics on the mat, and he is literally still going in the car. These things are made like blinking tanks, surely. But back up front, we've got all 4 of them now. Wareham, Brown, McFall and Dudley all battling away. Rylands in the mix. He's trying to get past Corish, which he's just managed to do. So Lee Ryan's the Am, I don't know if that's necessarily suited to where Lee Rylands is at the moment, but Mark Brown, Wareham and McFall with Dudley still battling it out.
Look at this. This is fantastic. This is what happens when all the pros get off to a good start and they're all free to battle. Oh, I'm afraid it's gone wrong for Mark Brown, though, as he was down the inside of Dan Wareham, trying to take the position on the inside. I'm afraid got up on the curb and went for a spin around. Meanwhile, Scott McFall is looking to take the lead here. He didn't even benefit from the reverse grid. He just benefited from all the chaos around him. And now all of a sudden, he's into the lead of the way, lead of the race now. Dan Wareham down to second, and in third place Ryan Dudley is just biding his time and waiting for his opportunity to strike. This is fantastic racing for the lead overall. Well, I suppose we've got one for the lead in Pro-Am as well, but this has got more people involved in it, the one at the front for the pro standings. Fantastic racing between them, and as I say, this is what happens when all of the pros get off to a good start and everybody's free to battle for the win.
Yeah, it was as well. Me talking about damage, completely forgot that they've turned damage off, so there isn't any damage, so that could be why Rumine's car is just carrying on like an absolute flyer. I got so excited, completely forgot that they damage was off for this one, so that's why Rumine can carry on. But these guys up the front not letting go of each other. You can see there on the left hand side Forrester as well in the lead of the Pro-Ams. He's got Corish up right behind him. There's McCain in the mix. They're separating with Kieran Fletcher, Scott Brown. They're fighting it out further down as well. So there's battles going on all the way through, and it's great to see at the moment, but it is just absolutely manic.
It really is. As Dudley gets through on Dan Wareham now as well, and towards turn 2. Question mark. Now finally does put a full stop to it and gets through into second place. There's a few seconds back to Rylands, who's somehow got ahead of all of the Pro-Ams. Pretty sure how he's managed that. Dan Forster, has got through on Craig Corrish for the win, or the lead at least, might be a win. The lead at least in Pro-Am. Alan McCain is just in behind them as well, trying to join those pros at the front of the field in all of their fights, but maybe now it would just calm down for a moment. I'm still calming down from that crash on the back straight, to be honest with you. It's been a long time since I've seen something quite as spectacular as that in a league like this. At least 3 or 4 drivers involved within it. And in the instant itself, I can't help but feel that there was a driver ahead defending. I couldn't work out which one it was. Stephen Pocket-Mahonton was definitely involved in it. I'm not sure whether he was the one trying to do the overtaking or the defending, but the driver doing the defending very much forced someone onto the grass, and they forced himself into the wall. And then in all of the melee afterwards, we saw quite the monumental crash. Meanwhile, Kieran Fletcher, I'm afraid, has gone for a spin, and so has Craig Corrish, by the looks of it, or he's gone for some sort of problem. I think he's actually not had a problem per se. He's just dropped a couple of places. So from the lead, he's now even off the podium, Craig Corrish.
Yeah, he's going to have to try and fight his way back through, isn't he? But he's got the likes of Peter Duke, Scott Brown and Dan Foster in front of him. So it's a big ask at the moment, but they've still got 15 minutes to go. You know, thinking back to that accident, I'm hoping Ruminer was not in VR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that in VR? That would be like being on a rocky boat in the water for me, and me head over the side. It would just be all wrong. So let's hope he isn't in VR after looking at that one. But I think this has been a very interesting scenario race that set about in the warm-up. The pros are at the front. You've got the surprising arm of Lee Rylands, don't get me wrong, sitting in 5th place, and then you've got Forster, McCain, Brown, Duke and Corrish. So there is that pro-am split that we were talking about, but we've just got Lee Rylands, who's absolutely flying.
He is. I'm not sure how he's managing this, but he is, and he's still ahead of the Pro-Am leader as well. I'm not sure he's going to stay there, actually, but fair play to him for getting there for now, Lee Rylands.
Do you know what?
So, yeah,
I have just checked. That is actually a mistake on the sheet.
Okay.
That could explain why Rylands is so far up.
Well, I was going to say,
no,
because
that is a mistake on the sheet. Unfortunately, they got sent through. Rylands is actually in the pro category, sitting in 5th currently. So there you go.
Okay. It does explain quite a lot.
It does, doesn't it? His pace was very surprising for an AM. So, but I've just literally physically checked again, and yeah, he is in the pro class.
Okay, that's rectified. I was going to say, he was in the Pro-Am class last season, battling with Forster, who is, interestingly, they're not in the same class anymore, but they are fighting with one another again. Only 3 points separated them at the end of last season, after the closest of the 3 title fights, by quite some distance actually. It was the closest, and they're going at it again now. It was really a 2-horse race, I've got to say. The 2 of them had 200 points over anybody else. Neil Kennedy, who was 3rd in the Pro-Am class last season, so that was a real 2-horse race in every sense of the word. Meanwhile, Peter Duke is looking to move forward again. I can never remember which Brown it is. Scott Brown it is in the Pro-Am, and it's Mark Brown in the Pro. So let's remember that as we get the battle in towards turn 1, 2 and 3. Peter Duke looking to the outside this time would be brave. He'll switch to the inside. No, he's not really going to have the space for all that. Oh dear, and meanwhile in the front there, McCain, I think that is, going for a spin. It is, and he just about gets going before they arrive on the scene, but he will lose the places there, I think, to both Pro-Am battlers.
I think that was one of them awkward spins, you know, the ones where you look and he was trying to hold on to it going sideways, and just about kept to grips with the car. He did lose a couple of places, but it could have been worse if he'd gone all the way round. So Alan McCain got away with one on that moment. We've got Neil Kennedy down here, Steve Parker Hamilton in the mix, and John Johnston is got Scott Bell for company further back. We've also got Anthony Jones, Tim Waters and Shane Bellinger in their own little freeway fight as well. So a couple of battles materialising quite nicely. Kennedy's in there with Brearley. Park Hamilton's in there. He's dropped a lot of positions from where he was, of course. But overall, I'm sure he'll be happy as he's back down within his mix.
He's back through again, working his way back through to a better position. Might be able to grab a podium by the end here, although it's quite a margin to try and close in, and he's not going to manage it if they keep doing this. 3 wide into the end of the back straight. That was so close. Driver in the middle there. Kennedy didn't really account for Michael Elms down the inside there, and there was contact, but no real catastrophe other than that. Brearley gets down the inside of Elms as well now, and moves through to 16th overall. So a pretty easy pass from him in the end there, but that's what these cars can do. 3 wide racing is common, and the slipstream that they produce really does give you that kind of racing. Now, we don't really have the circuit. Oh dear, as I was looking elsewhere, Stephen Parker Hamilton's difficult second race continues. I think Peter Duke has just had an issue as well there. He was trying to find a podium place. He's just dropped back. So, and McCain's done the same now, although it's just a battle, I suppose, side by side. Courish gets back through again, so having led for a while, was displaced, Courish, and now is moving through the positions again. Well, is that going to last very long, or will McCain make his way straight back down the inside again? It's the second one. And McCain is through into 8th place now, with just less than 10 minutes to go in this second race.
Yeah, it's been quite quick, hasn't it, this next race? You know what I mean? It's absolutely flown by. We've had a major drama and a major crash with some of them. We've had people dropping down the order, making the little mistakes and stuff. And we have got that now. Alan McCain is the only one, really, not making it the Pro-Am split, which is what we expected it to be. So, yeah, great job from all of these guys, though, keeping his cars going in the right way. Scott Brow is facing down on John Johnston, so John's going to be under attack from Scott very, very shortly, unless of course he does something amazing and can open up the gap again. But Scott's doing a great job chasing down on John.
Certainly is. That's so we've got a few out of the race now. In fact, a list of 3 retirements. Ruminet, Fletcher and Elms, I think, have all retired, unfortunately. 2 in the pit lane. Elms might have disconnected actually, but anyway, that was very wide from John Johnston, and through here surely is going to go Scott Bell. He didn't really get the exit he needed though. Would have thought that was an open goal for him, but he couldn't really get the exit that he needed at all. Now he's only going to grab the slipstream. These guys do get a choice on their setup, by the way, so you may see some difference in characteristics between these drivers as they battle around the circuit. And looking down the inside there, Scott Bell is going to have no luck, I'm afraid. Johnston goes wide though. He's going to force an error instead. Scott Bell will get to the outside here, and he will not go through. In fact, maybe we'll look to the inside instead of Johnston. It's so tricky into turn 5 and 6. I really wouldn't want to be the one making a move, or indeed the one being overtaken, in fact, through this little section here. And Scott Bell decides the better of it, because it is pretty difficult to manage and overtake through there.
Yeah, he looked like he had the run at one point, didn't he? And I thought it was great that he might have actually gone and been able to get it, but he just couldn't quite get it there. And Johnson must have had some great traction coming out, because he did an absolutely flyer getting out of the corner. McCain, just in time. There was a little bit of contact there as well. Alan McCain getting all a little bit loose with the 2-1-3 of Courish behind him, and Peter Duke in the mix as well. So these 3 fighting out for 8th, 9th, 10th in the overall here.
Excuse me, absolutely. I've left my mic on mute there. That was clever. Side by side briefly into the final corner there, but nothing doing really. McCain is finding it quite difficult, I think, to get through the Pro-Am field at times here. And so it's cost him a bit of time, really. It might cost him some places as well as we have a look at the classes. I think Wareham has just lost a plate, in fact, speaking of Pro class, to Mark Brown there. It's the only battle remaining, really, of that front four who were entertaining us earlier. And Craig Corris, the pole sitter in Pro-Am, I'm afraid has gone around in a spin, so he's back off the podium again.
Yeah, Mark Brown, Dan Wareham have just swapped places at the front end here. So Mark and Dan have just swapped places. You got Michael Waters leading the arms with Chorus right in front of him at the moment currently. So there's still little battles happening, but Scott McFall has just been absolutely unstoppable. He's opened up 2.2 seconds over Ryan Dudley. These guys fighting here, both from Simtech Pro and Simtech, not doing themselves any favours. But then again, you know, unless there's team orders, let them race. That's what I say on that one. So I think overall 5 minutes to go. Everybody will be happy. I think they've all got a nice little haul of points, some of these guys as well. So I think it could be really interesting going into next week, of course, which is where we're heading for Oschersleben.
Yes, be a circuit quite, I would say, quite well suited, I should say, to this car. I would say. Then you couldn't get any more different, could you? The week after that's the Nordside. So
yeah.
But
GR86 is at Nords.
Oh, yeah. That's how long's that going to be around there? About 2 days?
I don't think it's going to be 2 days when you can do a Clio round there, Mr. O'Leary, in about 9 minutes.
Okay, it would be about the same as that, I would imagine.
Yeah, give or take. It's not going to be far off that. 2 days. I'm going to have to do some camping and get some stop for food and water on the way round there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can walk around in less than 2 days, can you? So anyway, that's a slight exaggeration. Most, other than that, though, we've got some quite small little circuits that I think suit these cars quite well. Although it's not the sort of wide open slipstream fest that maybe the Nordschleife will be for some of the race. And by the way, 20 and 25 minute races, how's that going to work? Anyway, we'll get to that in a couple of weeks because not now. But yeah, we've got the likes of Laguna Seca. That'll be a nice small circuit for these cars to go around. Long Beach especially, I think, is going to suit these cars really well. Looking forward to that as well. So yeah, there's a couple of them, and a couple of them I don't really know too much about. Obviously, Aragon's been on iRacing for a little while. Circuit de Lebanon really hasn't been on the iRacing service for very long at all, so that's going to be a slight voyage of discovery, shall we say, for a lot of these drivers. Maybe they'll know it a bit better as well, but it's a good mix of circuits, right from the length of the Nordschleife to the small confines of Long Beach.
Yeah, completely different, isn't it, really? Because we go into Willow Springs, the big Willow as well, so another one that's not been on overly long within, terms of iRacing years of service. So, I think they're going to have a good mix. There's a lot involved in the tracks that they've picked. We know about how tricky Long Beach is going to be. We know how Nords is going to be. But as you say, it'll be the Motorland Aragon outer circuit. It will be Lebanon to see how they get on around there. There's a lot of practice going to be needed for these guys, and I think it could go rather well. I think this could be an absolutely epic season.
Yeah, I think it will be a side by side between Kennedy and Hadfield there for fourth in Pro-Am. This is. Excuse me, Kennedy is fourth in Pro-Am, but fifth in Pro-Am even. I can't even count. But Hadfield is not in there. It's behind him where he'll be looking for sure, as Terry Atkinson is trying to move through the field and maybe move up a position on the podium indeed, if he can. And the straight they go towards turns 1, 2 and 3 again as they start their penultimate lap of the race, by the way. 13 laps for this second race of the day. Hadfield just pulling to a slightly defensive line the way towards turn 2, forcing Atkinson right round the outside. He's not going to get nowhere with that, but he pulls back to the inside again. That's going to be a great switchback if he can do it, and he's going to not do it. He found himself on the outside, always tricky through there, and it would have been tricky as well in the next couple of corners. Meanwhile, McCain, I think, is off the road ahead of these guys. I'm not sure how has he managed this. It's an odd place to find yourself. I don't even know if he was really with anybody at the time, but he's not lost any class positions. I suppose he's just doubled his overall position, basically.
Yeah, a little bit of pride. You know what I mean? Especially if it was all on his own, which I think it may have been. So maybe just a little bit of pride that Alan McCain has lost during this round here as well. The leaders are just about going to be coming over the line. This should be the final lap, 1:40 on the clock. It will be the final lap of the race. So Scott McFall does start the final lap with Ryan Dudley in second, Dan Wareham third, and Mark Brown, who are still continually fighting it out. This is probably the closest battle it is at the moment on the race circuit, but we do expect Rylands and Foster to get closer coming over the line as the draft plays a big part for Dan Foster coming down into turn one. But it is at the moment Mark Brown, Dan Wareham, all not playing playing nice with each other.
Not especially. Mark Brown there will get a flash of the lights there from Dan Wareham now, and you wonder what that was, what that's a reference to. Wonder what he was saying behind those lights. Meanwhile, Wareham's going to try and have a look again into turn 6, but that's always tricky, and he's gone very wide there. He can just about pull it back though, because of turn 7, and the fact it's not a very long run to turn 8, he won't be punished for that especially. And so it's more about the run out of turn 8 instead. That's a nice line from Wareham. He's used all of the exit there. He's gone over the white lines indeed, but that's all okay. Brown is going to have to go defensive here. Has he done enough now to hang on into turn 9? Wareham's not going to go down the inside. There's barely a car width down there. Around the outside. No, he doesn't have to. He switches to the inside, and Wareham's back on the podium.
Yeah, great move from Dan Wareham. He's gone back and did an absolute amazing move on Mark Brown. So a great job from him as he looks now get to cement that third place on the podium. Of course, he whatever went on in race 1, Dan, I think you can safely say, has come back and recovered well. Scott McFall, though, however, coming over the line.
Recovered even better, you could say. Race 2 winner here tonight at Navarra. It's Scott McFall who takes the checkered flag first. In the end, after a fierce battle with the rest of the top 4, was pretty comfortable, to be honest, towards the end of that race. In the Pro-Ams, it's going to be Dan Forster who's trailed Lee Rylands all the way to the line. He will take the Pro-Am victory here in race 2. And in the Am class, down in 10th position, Michael Walters is going to be the winner. The battle for the other podium places seems to have been settled just behind them. By the way, another couple of retirements to tell you about as well at the end of this race when we get the results. But Michael Walters has stepped through it all, and he has got through into winning position. Michael Walters will take race 2 after all of the trials and tribulations for guys like Stephen Parker Hamilton and all of the rest as well. He is the winner on this occasion. There's Alan McCain coming through in a sea of AMs and Pro-Ams as well. Maybe not the place he wanted to be at all. It is on this second race, and then the rest of them stream over the line as well. But a second race that certainly went by with great speed, actually. In the end there, it was an enjoyable second race for sure. Certainly I don't know if you can call it a highlight, but the thing that's going to stick in the minds of many is that crash on the back straight. Goodness me.
Yeah, that's the one that will be talked about, I'm sure, after the drivers have watched his back, and you've seen Rummenigge do more flips than a gymnast. You know what I mean? As he's going down there, but he did an absolute, it was just, it looked like somebody had come across, and then he went into the barrier, and then he come back into the middle of the track, and then poof, it all kind of erupted like a Chinese firework. It went poof, 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 and there were bits of car going all over the place. But I think at the end of the day, these guys will learn. I'm a bit worried about Anthony Jones here. I think I've got a funny feeling he's either chugging because he's run out of fuel, which
he may have run out of fuel.
yes, he's just, go on, son. There you go. He gets it over the line. So well done for him.
Looked like he was spluttering there a little bit. But there you go. Another theory, by the way, just to go back to race 1 briefly. Maybe they had qualifying fuel for the start of the race, and so thought better come in.
Maybe
because they both came in within 3 laps, but that doesn't really distinguish between a penalty or indeed fuel. But anyway, we'll find out. Scott McFall is the winner. 9.4 seconds is a big margin at the end there, ahead of Ryan Dudley, who was come out with a first and a second today. Dan Wareham eventually fought off Mark Brown for third, ahead of Lee Rylands. Then the Pro-Am winner, Dan Forster, pretty big gap for him too, with Scott Brown in second, and then Peter Duke and Craig Courish. Michael Walters, the winner in Am, indeed gave himself a bit of a buffer there, with Neil Kennedy just behind him, then Adrian Hadfield, who fought off not only Adam McCain in Pro, but also Terry Atkinson, who rounds out the podium places. Stuart Brierley is next to Stephen Parker Hamilton, who certainly had an eventful race. John Johnson finished in 17th ahead of Scott Bell in 18th, followed by Shane Bellinger and Anthony Jones inside the top 20. And then you get into some of those who were a long way back. Sean Clark, 1 lap down. Tim Walters didn't get to the end. Neither did John Kenny. They retired on the same lap. Michael Elms also retired early, with Kieran Fletcher and Ruminate, who we saw cartwheeling down the back straight. So that is it for the first 2 races in the opening round of the Tanso Racing Group TR86 Championship. Because we're doing this after the fact, we can actually tell you what the points are after an event, which is... Has that ever happened before?
No.
Don't know. But let's do it now. So the pro standings, unsurprisingly, being led by Ryan Dudley, even though, we'll preface this, doesn't especially matter after round 1, but it's useful to tell you anyway. He's got 9 points over Scott McFall, who jumped up a couple of places with that race win in race 2 ahead of Dan Wareham and Mark Brown. Lee Rylands and then Alan McCain round out the 6 there. In Pro-Am, we've got the Scott Brown in first place ahead of Dan Forster. 7 points separate those two. Peter Duke in third place. Craig Courish, then Neil Kennedy, Shane Bellinger, Ruminate and Fletcher on the same points in 7th and 8th. And then in Am, I won't go through all these because there are 12 of them, but 1 point separates Michael Walters and Adrian Hadfield. They are the top 2, with Stephen Parker Hamilton only 5 points off the lead in third. So all in all, actually not bad for him to still be third after a pretty eventful second race of the day. But an enjoyable 2 races for us. Probably enjoyed getting this season underway here at Navarra. Not a circuit, as I say, that I've seen a lot of, but the racing round here was pretty good and sets us up for a good season as well.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's something we've got to be looking forward to see how these guys get on here. It gives us just enough time to give us the sponsors a shout out. You obviously start off with TH Jordan, offer an efficient and client-focused design, print and finishing service. Work ranges from single colour stationery and leaflets to full colour photos, annual reports and magazines. You can go and check them out at thjordanltd.com. So that's the first sponsor. You got Clark James Search and Social Media Advertising, illustrates the enduring principles behind its success despite changes in office-based personnel and company name, founded by COO Sean Clark, self-taught digital industry expert in 2012. You can go and check them out at clarkstjames.com as on that one. Next up is Revive. Revive Swindons offers a mobile phone repair service for bumper scuffs, paint scratches and damaged alloy wheels. Fitting repairs around your schedule. Go and check them out at revive-uk.com for that one as well. And the final one of the evening, TS Livery Designs. Chesterfield Livery Designs for sim racing and full-size motorsports. You can go and find them at Facebook. Just search TS Livery Designs and they will come up. And that's the 4 sponsors for this season.
Absolutely. A big thank you to all of them for supporting the series. We've thoroughly enjoyed bringing the first round of this new season to you. So that's 1 down, still 8 to go. Next week we'll be at the Oschersleben Grand Prix circuit. Very much hope that you'll join us then as well. Make sure you subscribe to the JPB YouTube channel to catch all of this season and indeed all of the other broadcasts that go on during the week. There's plenty of them for you to enjoy. But for now, from myself, Ian Leary, James Parfitt alongside me, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you in a week at Oschersleben.